The friend. Smurf was just trying to grab a bag of chips and a soda from the corner store. It was hot out, the kind of heat that made the pavement shimmer. He tore open his chips as he walked back home, crunching and minding his business. That's when he heard footsteps behind him. He glanced over his shoulder, a group of boys. His stomach dropped. It was them. The same crew that jumped him a few weeks back and took his stuff. Smurf's heart started pounding. He clutched his soda tighter and picked up the pace, but the boys sped up too. "Yo, where you going, lil dude?" one of them called out. Smurf didn't answer, he just ran. He cut through the alley, but his foot slipped on some loose gravel. Before he could get up, the group was on him, pushing, kicking, laughing. He tasted blood. Someone hit him again hard. Then suddenly, thump! A heavy sound hit behind them. A voice shouted, "Leave lil man alone." Everyone turned. Standing at the end of the alley was Fat Boy, big, solid, and angry. The boys froze. "Fat Boy, chill, bro," one of them said. "We don't want no problems with you." Fat Boy stepped closer. "But you got a problem with him, that's my new friend." The leader scoffed. "Friend, since when?" Fat Boy didn't answer, he just swung. Next thing, Smurf was on his feet, throwing punches right beside him. The two of them, Smurf and Fat Boy, fought back hard. The bullies didn't expect it and scattered quick once they heard sirens in the distance. Moments later, police cars pulled up. Officers held both groups until their mothers arrived. Smurf's mom rushed over, panicked. Fat Boy's mom was right behind her, shaking her head. When things calmed down, the officers explained what happened, and that all the boys lived on the same street. Smurf's mom sighed. "We just moved here. I didn't think this would happen so soon." Fat Boy's mom put a hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry my son got your boy mixed up in this. He's got a big heart, but he stays fighting." Smurf smiled, his nose still bleeding a little. "He saved me, though." Fat Boy grinned. "Told you I got you now." Their moms laughed softly, tired but relieved. That day was the start of something new, a friendship that would carry them through middle school, high school, and now, years later, all the way to graduation week. Graduation week. The video game controller clicked rapidly. Fat Boy and Smurf sat on the couch, surrounded by empty chip bags and soda cans, laughing between rounds. Smurf, "Man, I love my moms, but she worked too hard, long hours just to barely make it." Fat Boy, "Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. That's why when I graduate I'm gonna get a bag, everything's gonna change." Smurf, "Oh yeah, and how you gonna do that?" Fat Boy grinning, "I don't know yet, but you'll see." Graduation night came, caps flying, families cheering, the air full of hope and promise. Smurf and Fat Boy celebrated like kings that night. 2 weeks later, reality hit. They decided it was time to move out, start their own lives. They found a small 2-bedroom apartment on the west side, splitting rent and bills. At first, it was all fun, parties, girls, laughter, and late-night runs. But when rent came due, the smiles faded fast. They barely scraped by. One morning, after just making rent, Smurf woke up on the couch, rubbing his eyes. "Smurf, Fat Boy, I thought you was gonna get a bag, man." "Fat Boy, I'm working on it. I can't keep living like this." For the next 2 years, the grind was real. They bounced from job to job, roofing, drywall, concrete work, kitchen gigs, anything that paid. They worked hard, but no matter what, they could never seem to get to the bag. Then one day, everything changed. Fat Boy came home from another long day of construction, shoulders heavy with sweat and dust. When he reached the door, he froze. A black duffel bag sat right in front of their apartment. He looked around. The hallway was empty. He picked it up and walked inside. "Fat Boy, yo, Smurf, you order something. There's a bag out here." Smurf, "Nah, man. You always on some bullshit. What are you talking about?" "Fat Boy, whatever's in this bag, It's mine now." He unzipped it. Bundles of cash. And a gun. Fat Boy eyes wide. "OSH bro, look at this, look at this." They dumped it out on the table. When they counted it, it came to $225,000. They couldn't believe it. They called off work the next day. They broke off some money for their moms just to do right, and then the rest. They went wild. Cars, clothes, jewelry, bottles. They finally felt like they made it. But deep down, Smurf couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. A few weeks later, sitting in a fancy restaurant downtown, Smurf leaned in. "Smurf, yo, Fat Boy, you ever think about where that money came from? I mean, that bag was just sitting there." Fat Boy shrugging. "Man, I don't care, it's mine now, and I can do what I like." The consequence. The apartment was silent, too silent. Only the low hum of the refrigerator broke the stillness. Smurf froze in the doorway. Fat Boy stood beside him, fists clenched. The man at the table looked up slowly, his gold watch glinting in the dim light. The man, "Come in," closed the door. Fat Boy didn't move. Smurf nervous whisper, "Fat, who is this?" The man, "You can call me Mr. Leon." He nodded toward the duffel bag on the counter. "Mr. Leon, that's mine." Fat Boy swallowed hard. "Man, we ain't no." Mr. Leon interrupting, "You knew enough to open it, count it, spend it." He leaned back in his chair. "I don't care about the money. I care about who you think you stole it from." Smurf took a step forward, voice shaky. "Smurf, we didn't steal nothing. The bag was just sitting there." Mr. Leon calmly, "Money like that don't just sit. Somebody put it there, and I've been looking for it." One of the men behind him stepped forward, huge, quiet, eyes cold. He said something on the table. Smurf's heart dropped. It was a photo of them, laughing, partying, flashing cash. "Mr. Leon, you boys weren't hard to find. Next time you want to play grown men's games, make sure you know the rules." Fat Boy clenched his jaw. "What you want us to do?" "Mr. Leon, simple. You want to keep breathing, you work for me. You already proved you can handle money. Now I'll show you how to make it." Smurf's eyes widened. "Nah, man, we ain't into that street stuff." Mr. Leon smiled, a thin, dangerous smile. "Mr. Leon, it's a little late for that, kid." The two men stepped aside, motioning toward the bag. "Mr. Leon, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. sharp, you'll get instructions. Miss that meeting, and I'll assume you don't value your lives." He stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "Mr. Leon, congratulations, boys, you wanted a bag. Now you got one." The door closed behind him with a heavy click. Smurf dropped onto the couch, shaking. "Smurf, Fat, what did we just get ourselves into?" Fat Boy stared at the door, silent, eyes burning with something between fear and determination. "Fat Boy, we wanted to get a bag. Guess now, we gotta earn it." That night they pulled up to their apartment, laughing, until they noticed the door. It was cracked open. They stepped inside slowly. Sitting at the dining room table was a man in a black suit, calm, cold. Two other men stood behind him, arms crossed. The man, "I believe you boys have something that belongs to me." The bag gets heavy. The next morning came too fast. Smurf barely slept. Every sound outside made him jump. The words, "You wanted a bag, now you got one," kept looping in his head. Fat Boy, on the other hand, was up early, calm, collected, already dressed in his best hoodie and fresh sneakers. Smurf groggy, "Yo, you really going?" Fat Boy, "Man, I ain't got a choice. You heard him." Smurf, "We do got a choice. We can call the cops, tell somebody." Fat Boy cutting him off, "Tell him what? That we found a bag full of money and spent it. Bro, we already in it." Smurf rubbed his face, frustrated. "This ain't what I meant when we said we'd get a bag." Fat Boy grabbed his keys. "Sometimes the bag don't come clean." At 10 a.m., They pulled up to an old auto shop on the east side. The metal door creaked open, and Mr. Leon's man waved them inside. Stacks of tires, the smell of oil, and a table in the back with 3 black duffels just like the first one. Mr. Leon sat there, sipping coffee cool as ever. "Mr. Leon, glad you showed up. I like men who keep their word." He slid a photo across the table, a warehouse, a time, a code. "Mr. Leon, you're gonna pick something up. Simple drop. Don't look inside. Don't ask questions. Bring it back, you get 10%. Fat Boy's eyes lit up. 10% of what? Mr. Leon smirked. "You'll see." Smurf shifted uneasily. "Man, I don't like this." Mr. Leon, "Then don't, but your friend already said yes." Smurf turned to Fat Boy. "Yo, you serious?" Fat Boy nodded. "We need this, bro, just one job, then we done." Mr. Leon chuckled softly. "That's what they all say." That night they drove out to the edge of town, headlights cutting through the fog. The warehouse looked abandoned. Smurf kept looking over his shoulder. "Smurf, this don't feel right, man." Fat Boy, "Relax, in and out." They grabbed the bag from the contact and left fast. But halfway back, a car started following them, lights off, tail tight. Smurf, "Yo, they on us." Fat Boy gripping the wheel, "Hold on." Tires screeched. A chase through back streets, horns blaring until they finally lost them under the old bridge. They sat there, panting, hearts racing. "Smurf, you see what I'm saying? This ain't worth it, Fat." Fat Boy quietly, "It's too late to go back now." When they returned the bag, Mr. Leon smiled, pleased. "Mr. Leon, good work. You boys just made 22 grand." Fat Boy couldn't hide his grin. Smurf just stared at the money. It didn't feel real anymore. Mr. Leon looked between them. "Mr. Leon, you two got potential. I like potential. Let's see how deep it runs." That night back at the apartment, the mood was different. Fat Boy was hyped, talking about cars, watches, plans. Smurf sat quietly, staring out the window. "Smurf, Fat, you ever think maybe we got lucky once and should have left it at that?" Fat Boy, "Lucky don't pay rent. Lucky don't change nothing. This right here, this is the change." Smurf didn't say another word. Outside, sirens echoed in the distance. He couldn't tell if it was a warning or a sign of what was coming next. The price of the bag. Smurf couldn't take it anymore. After that last job, he packed his things, said goodbye to the apartment and went back home. He missed his mom, her cooking, her voice, her prayers. But more than that, he missed peace. Fat Boy stayed behind, chasing money and respect. Smurf visited sometimes, worried, but Fat Boy would just smile like everything was under control. One evening, Smurf sat at his mother's kitchen table. Steam rose from a pot on the stove as his mom and Fat Boy's mother, Miss Dorothy, talked softly. Smurf's mom, "Baby, you can't live fast forever. You work hard, you'll make it where you need to be." Miss Dorothy, "Amen. These boys think money comes easy, but that bag life always costs you something." Smurf nodded. He knew they were right. That's when Fat Boy walked in, looking tired, older, eyes heavy. "Fat Boy, I need your help, bro." Smurf, "What's wrong?" Fat Boy, "I told Leon I'm done. I can't do this no more." Smurf, "Good, so what's the problem?" Fat Boy, "He said I still owe him. From that first bag, said I owe half, 120. Smurf's eyes widened. 120,000. Fat Boy, "Yeah, I got 100, but I'm still short 25. Over the next few weeks, the two friends hit every hustle they could find, working double shifts, flipping cars, doing small side jobs, even selling old jewelry. Every dollar counted. When they finally sat down to count it all, Fat Boy sighed. "Fat Boy, bro, we still short, 1,000. Smurf, "Damn, we came this far." Silence filled the room. Then Smurf looked at him seriously. "Smurf, you know what you gotta do." Fat Boy frowning, "Nah man, I ain't doing that." Smurf, you know she got you, Fat. Don't let pride mess this up. Fat Boy quiet, yeah, I know. That night, Fat Boy drove across town to his mama's house. Big Dorothy was on the porch, rocking in her chair, watching the night. Big Dorothy, I knew you'd come by. Fat Boy softly, Mama, I need 1,000. Big Dorothy, I figured you did, but before I give it to you, you know what you need to do, right? Fat Boy hung his head. Yeah, ma'am, I do. She smiled gently, eyes shining. Then do it right this time. Don't let that money own you. He hugged her tight, tears stinging his eyes. She slipped an envelope into his hand. Now go handle your business. The next day, Fat Boy met up with Smurf outside the old auto shop. He held up the envelope. Fat Boy, we got it, every dime. Smurf, you sure you wanna do this? Fat Boy, I gotta. I'm ending this for good. The metal door creaked open, and inside the same table waited, but this time the wait in the room was different. Fat Boy took a deep breath. It was time to face the big man. The meeting, blood money and choices. The restaurant smelled like seared beef and lemon oil, a clean, expensive scent that didn't belong on their side of town. Mr. Leon's place sat on the edge of the city, a glass-fronted building with dim lights and low jazz playing. Tonight the dining room glowed warm. The booths were full of people who didn't ask questions. Smurf and Fat Boy walked in carrying a black duffel between them. They moved like men who'd carried heavier loads, shoulders squared, eyes scanning. Fat Boy's hand never left the zipper. Smurf kept his posture steady, though his heart tapped a fast code against his ribs. Mr. Leon rose from a corner table when he saw them, clapping slowly. Two hulking men in suits, his security, stood behind him like shadows with names. You boys kept your word, Mr. Leon said, voice smooth as oil. Sit. They sat. The food came. Conversations folded into the pleasant hum of the room. For a second, the night could have been any other normal night, but normal left once the door at the far end slammed open. A group of men, rough, rural-looking, boots on, faces like bad weather, marched in. They wore the kind of confidence that thought the world owed them. One of them barked a laugh and pointed straight at Smurf and Fat Boy. Hey, what's that bag, boys? Hand it over and nobody gets hurt. The room's music didn't miss a beat, but 100 tiny things tightened. The security's hands, Mr. Leon's jaw, Fat Boy's grip on the duffel. The rural crew didn't see the two guards at the back, or they did and didn't care. They wanted quick money, quick flex. They didn't know whose kitchen they'd just walked into. One of the gang stepped forward, swagger and malice. The leader's grin had teeth missing. He reached toward the table. Before the man's hand closed, a shadow moved not from Leon's guards, but from the other side of the room. Smurf and Fat Boy had been ready. Fat Boy shoved the duffel under the table with his foot, palms open like he wanted to show he wasn't reaching for a gun. Then, in the same heartbeat, Smurf slid his jacket aside to reveal a small pistol tucked under his arm. Chaos exploded. A bottle shattered. Screams. Leon's security dove, not to stop the two but to cut off the attackers. The rural gang pulled out weapons, surprised. They hadn't expected resistance, especially not in a place where the owner could call the kind of muscle Leon had. Shots rang. The sound was sharp, vicious. It was businesslike, not frantic, because everyone there had steel. Smurf ducked, rolled, fired once. Fat Boy fired twice, precise. Two of the rural men went down clutching their stomachs, surprise on their faces. The rest hit the floor, sprawled or scrambling. Leon's security finished what Smurf and Fat Boy started. Within seconds the threat was neutralized. People screamed, chairs toppled, and the jazz ended in a shriek. The room smelled of smoke and hot metal. Silence settled like dust. Mr. Leon stood slowly, dusting off his suit as if he'd been waiting for a show. He looked at Smurf and Fat Boy with something like approval and calculation mashed together. You handled that well, he said. You handled that very well. One of his men came over and checked the fallen. The rural gang was alive but out cold, mouths full of desert and mistakes. Mr. Leon stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Stay with me," he said. "There's power in knowing how to handle trouble. I could use men like you. You stay down with my crew, you get cut in. Protection, more bread, respect." Fat Boy stared at the floor for a long second. He thought about the car he wanted, the way his mama's eyes could finally rest. He thought about the duffel of cash burning a hole behind his ribs. Smurf met Mr. Leon's eyes and shook his head. "We just came to square up with the bread," Smurf said flatly, voice steady. "We ain't looking to sign up for anything else. We can do our own thing." Mr. Leon's lips curved into something that wasn't a smile. "You think you can turn down safety, turn down the men who can keep you breathing. You think that's easy." Fat Boy found his voice. "We just want to be straight, that's all." Mr. Leon let out a soft, almost amused exhale. He watched them walk toward the door. They left with their duffel, their money, and a trail of questions following them. Outside, cool air hit their faces like truth. As their silhouettes faded into the streetlight, Mr. Leon leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Heard they handled themselves well," one of his lieutenants said. Mr. Leon watched the boys go, slow as a chess player reading a board. He tapped ash into a crystal ashtray, considered the night's dominoes. "We gotta watch them," he said finally, voice low and sure. "Let them think they're clever. I don't like loose ends. I got something for them." His men exchanged glances. The implied meaning sat heavy in the smoky air: protection or possession. A favor owed, a leash ready. Outside, Smurf and Fat Boy walked down the block. Fat Boy's step was lighter than it had been in months. The money in the duffel felt heavy and hollow. Smurf kept a hand near his jacket pocket, eyes shifting along the sidewalk. They made it to the corner before either of them spoke. Fat Boy breathed out, half laugh, half sob. "You see that? We handled it." Smurf nodded, not smiling. "Yeah, we handled it. Let's just hope handled it don't mean we signed a new set of chains." Fat Boy looked back once at the restaurant's glowing windows, then forward at the dark street, at the houses where their moms slept, at the choices they'd already made. They walked on. Behind them, in a room of clinking glasses and quiet counting, Mr. Leon folded his hands and began to plan. The choice to fight. The night air hit different after that meeting. The hum of the city seemed louder, sharper, like the world was warning them. Smurf and Fat Boy walked in silence for blocks until the lights of the restaurant faded behind them. Every step felt like leaving something behind, but also like a clock had started ticking. They turned the corner, and Fat Boy finally spoke. "Fat Boy, you heard him right. Leon ain't letting this go." Smurf: "Yeah, I heard. He think we just two dumb kids he can scare into serving him." Fat Boy: "So what we do? Run." Smurf stopped walking, eyes cold. Smurf: "Now we fight." For the next few days, the two laid low, but they weren't hiding. They were planning. Smurf reached out to some old heads from his construction job, men who owed him favors, men who didn't talk much but knew how to handle business. Fat Boy used what little money they had left to buy a car, burner phones, and to scope Leon's people. They didn't want war, but Leon had already declared one. One evening, Fat Boy's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the old auto shop, tonight, alone." "Well," Fat Boy showed Smurf. "Smurf, he's setting you up." Fat Boy: "I know, but I'm tired of looking over my shoulder." Smurf: "Then we go together." That night, they parked a block away from the old auto shop, the same place where this all started. The lights were dim. A black SUV sat out front. Smurf checked his pistol. Fat Boy nodded once, the same look he gave before every game they ever played, every fight they ever faced. They stepped inside. Mr. Leon was waiting, same sharp suit, same cold smile. Three men stood behind him, hands on their waistbands. "Mr. Leon, I was hoping you'd come. You boys made me proud at that restaurant." "Fat boy, we didn't come for compliments. We came to end this." "Mr. Leon, end it. You don't end this, son. You belong to it." "Smurf, we don't belong to nobody." Leon chuckled, slow and quiet. "You really think you can just walk away? I gave you money, I gave you work, you owe me." Fat boy cutting him off. "We don't owe you nothing." Leon's eyes flicked to one of his men. The man moved first. But Smurf and Fat boy were faster. The shop erupted in gunfire, echoing off steel walls, shattering glass. Fat boy ducked behind a workbench, returning fire. Smurf moved like he'd been trained for it all his life, calm, sharp, precise. One by one, Leon's men fell. Smoke filled the air, tools crashed to the ground. When the last shot faded, only 3 people were left standing: Smurf, Fat boy, and Mr. Leon. Leon stumbled back, a gun in his hand, blood on his sleeve. He aimed shakily. "Mr. Leon, you think you won." "Fat boy, we ain't trying to win, man. We just done." "Mr. Leon, nobody's ever done." He pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. Smurf stepped forward, gun trained, but Fat boy raised a hand. "Fat boy, don't. He ain't worth the bullet." Leon dropped his gun, chest heaving, rage in his eyes. "Smurf, we square now. You hear me? It's over." They turned and walked out, slow, heavy, but alive. The night was quiet again, only the sound of their footsteps fading into the dark. Outside, under the flickering streetlight, Fat boy looked at Smurf. "Fat boy, we did it." Smurf, "Yeah, but this time we leave the bag behind." Fat boy nodded. They tossed the black duffel into a trash fire behind the shop. The flames swallowed the money, the memories, and everything that came with it. They walked away, 2 friends who finally learned that not all bags are worth chasing. New beginnings. 6 months later. The city had moved on, but Smurf and Fat boy hadn't stopped grinding. The fire from that night, the one that burned the duffel, lit something new inside them. They were done chasing the bag. Now they were building it. Fat boy started small, a detailing shop with Miss Dorothy. She ran the books, he handled the cars. They called it Big D's Shine and Detail. Every morning, the smell of soap and wax filled the air, and Fat boy smiled knowing he was finally making clean money. Smurf, on the other hand, took his last few dollars and opened a little spot on the corner called Smurf's Kitchen. Fried catfish, wings, gumbo on Fridays. It became the kind of place where folks came to eat, talk, and feel safe. Sometimes Fat boy would stop by during lunch, wipe his hands on a rag, and grab a plate. They'd laugh like old times, just 2 brothers who made it out. "Smurf, look at us, man. We really flipped the script." Fat boy, "Yeah, we did that. Mom's proud, Miss Dorothy happy we straight." Smurf, smiling, "Ain't gotta look over our shoulders no more." Fat boy, "Yeah, no more." But as the sun dipped low and the streetlights flickered on, a dark sedan rolled past the restaurant, slow, too slow. Smurf noticed, so did Fat boy. They said nothing. Old ghosts don't knock when they come back, they just show up. The weight of the past. Months passed, business stayed good. Smurf's kitchen grew. Fat boy opened a second detailing bay. They hired young kids from the neighborhood, tried to give them what they never had, a chance. Life was steady. Until one night. Smurf was closing up the restaurant. The bell above the door jingled softly. He looked up and froze. A man in a suit stood there, sharp, silent. Not Leon, but someone who looked like he used to work for Leon. He set a card down on the counter, black, with gold letters. No words, just a symbol, L. Smurf stared at it, heartbeat rising. "Smurf, you tell whoever sent you, we done with that life." The man smiled faintly. "Man, thing about the past, boss, it don't ask permission to visit." He turned and walked out. Moments later, Fat Boy's phone buzzed. Unknown number, one message. Debt never dies. Fat Boy exhaled slowly, looking across the street at Smurf locking up his restaurant. They had worked so hard to climb out, to start over, to be free. But the truth was simple. You can walk away from the game, but the game don't always walk away from you. He slipped the phone into his pocket and whispered, "If it come to it again, we ready." The camera would fade out on the two of them, Smurf flipping his sign to closed, and Fat Boy watching the same black sedan roll by, slow and quiet, like a memory that refuses to die. The price of peace. Shadows return. Smurf's kitchen had become a local favorite, the kind of place where people felt at home. Fat Boy often parked outside, helping his friend close up or just hanging around to make sure he was safe. That night, as Smurf flipped the lights off, Fat Boy rolled up in his truck and leaned out the window. "You seen that black car again?" he asked, voice low. Smurf nodded. "Yeah, same one. Been rollin' by slow every night this week." Fat Boy stared down the street. The car wasn't there now, but they both felt it, the eyes watching from somewhere. "Leon's people don't forget," Fat Boy said quietly. Smurf shrugged, trying to shake off the chill. "Man, we paid that man, we clean." Fat Boy looked at him, serious. In his world, clean don't exist. The two stood in silence for a moment before parting ways, both pretending not to look over their shoulders. Pressure builds. Business at Big D's Shine and Detail was booming. Fat Boy had employees now, real customers, repeat business, but something still felt off. Late one afternoon, while wiping down a car, his phone buzzed. The number wasn't saved. The message read, "You still owe for the bag." Attached was a photo, a shot of Smurf, taken from across the street outside his restaurant. Fat Boy froze. His stomach dropped. He looked around the lot and saw a black car sitting across the street. A man in the driver's seat lifted his phone and took another picture. Fat Boy's hand tightened around the phone. "Close up shop," he yelled to one of his workers. "Now." He drove straight to Smurf's place. Warning signs. By the time Fat Boy arrived, Smurf was already tense. He had found an envelope sitting on one of the tables after closing. Inside was a single gold L chain, Leon's mark, and one clean, unused bullet. Smurf's jaw clenched as he showed it to Fat Boy. "They tryna send a message." Fat Boy nodded slowly. "Yeah, and if we don't answer, they gon' send something louder." The meeting. The message came 2 nights later. A text, short and direct. "Meet me, old motel off Highway 19, midnight, alone." They knew it was a setup, but some things couldn't be ignored. They went together. When they walked into the dusty old motel room, Mr. Leon was sitting there, smoking a cigar like he'd been waiting all night. 2 of his men stood behind him. Leon smiled as they entered. "You boys got heart, I'll give you that," he said. "But you took from me, you cost me, now I'm collectin' interest." Fat Boy's hands curled into fists. "We paid you every dime." Leon shook his head. "Maybe, but this ain't about money no more, it's about loyalty." He snapped his fingers. His men drew their guns. "You with me," Leon said, "or against me?" Smurf didn't hesitate. "We done choosin' sides, Leon." Leon grinned, slow and cold. "That's the wrong answer." The guns came up, but Smurf and Fat Boy were faster. The firefight. The motel erupted in chaos. Gunfire tore through the walls, splintering old wood and sending dust into the air. Smurf dropped low, firing from behind a couch. Fat Boy moved through the smoke like he'd done this before, calm under pressure. One of Leon's men went down, then the other. Leon staggered back, clutching his arm, blood running down his sleeve. He stumbled toward the back door and disappeared into the dark. Smurf wanted to chase, but Fat Boy grabbed his shoulder. "Let him go," he said, breathing heavy. It's done. But deep down they both knew it was. Escape. They sped down an empty road, headlights cutting through the fog. Fat Boy's hands gripped the wheel tight. You know this don't end right. Smurf looked out the window. It ends when we make it end. Neither spoke the rest of the drive. The choice. Back at Fat Boy's house, the air was heavy. He sat at the table with a duffel bag in front of him, but this time it wasn't stolen money. It was everything he'd earned clean. He unzipped it, stared at the cash. Leon's gold chain sat on top. Smurf walked in quietly. You sure you want to do this? Fat Boy nodded. Ain't no runnin' left. If we want peace, we gotta fight for it. Retaliation. For the next 2 days, they prepared. Smurf shut down his restaurant. Fat Boy told his workers to take a week off. They loaded up the car, not with weapons but with grit. 2 men who'd lost everything once before, ready to face whatever came next. Smurf tied his boots and said, when you come from the bottom, you don't chase trouble. Trouble already got your address. They drove into the night, toward Leon's warehouse. Leon's fall. Leon sat behind a desk stacked with cash, smoke curling from his cigar. He didn't even look up when the door opened. Fat Boy stepped inside, quiet and steady. Leon smiled without warmth. You again. Fat Boy placed the duffel on the table. That's clean money. You want dirt, dig your own grave. Leon laughed, right before the room went silent. A single gunshot echoed. When the smoke cleared, Leon was slumped over the table. The cigar rolled from his hand and burned out on the floor. Fat Boy stood there for a long time, breathing hard, staring at what he'd done. Then he walked out without a word. The aftermath. It rained the next morning. Smurf and Fat Boy stood side by side at a small gravesite. The headstone read, Dorothy Big D. Miller, a mother to many. Fat Boy's eyes were wet. She told me I'd never find peace if I kept living fast, he whispered. Guess she was right. Smurf put a hand on his shoulder. She'd still be proud, bro. You made it out. Fat Boy nodded slowly. Yeah, but I don't know if I'm still me. Smurf looked at him calm. Then find yourself again, start over, that's what we do. They left the graveyard together, silent but stronger. Legacies. Months passed. Smurf's Kitchen expanded into a small chain, Smurf's Kitchen and Soul. Fat Boy turned Big D's into a franchise, hearing young men from the same blocks they grew up on. They gave jobs to kids who could have gone down the same road they once did. They built something real, something that mattered. On the wall of Smurf's restaurant hung a plaque that read, For Miss Dorothy, who taught us what real hustle is. At night, they sometimes sat outside the restaurant, just watching the cars pass. Smurf would laugh softly. We really did it, huh? Fat Boy would nod, smile faintly. Yeah, but the streets still whisper our names. Smurf would shrug. Let 'em whisper, long as we live in louder. And with that, they'd clink glasses, 2 men who finally learned. Getting a bag wasn't about money, it was about freedom.